Once again, the defense team is filling in more gaps. Hey guys, this is Jules with True Crime Reactions. Disclaimer, everything stated in this video is my opinion and my opinion only. And just like everything else in these cases we discuss here on this channel, everything is alleged. Okay, do you guys remember whenever we went through the state's list of self-authenticating records and we had questions about why we needed to know what Kaylee bought at the pet store and why they were submitting into evidence what Dylan bought at TJ Maxx? Well, the defense is now filling in some of those answers. Maybe not the answers for why these things are being submitted. I've really just kind of skimmed through it. We might actually learn those things. I don't really know. But they're at least giving us information about what these files being submitted actually contain. Because let's be serious, why do we need to know what Kaylee bought at the pet store? And why do we need to know what Dylan bought at TJ Maxx? Now, if you missed us going over the original list of these records submitted by the state, the thumbnail looks like this, and I'll have a link for it down in the description box. Now again, this is the defendant's objection to the state's motion in limine regarding the self-authentication of records. Comes now Bryan C. Kohberger by and through his attorneys of record and hereby objects to the state's motion in limine to admit self-authenticating records. The state provided a list containing terabytes of discovery in its motion for admission at trial based on the exception to the rule against hearsay. Now remember, whenever we went over the 9 o'clock hour in this video, now, the detail that we got about that one specific point, that 9, 12, and 59-second timestamp of a security camera, that there were all these subfolders and hours and hours and hours of video that were handed over for something that was a very, very, very short segment of time. We've also seen Judge Hippler make comment about how disorganized everything is, and it seems like the defense is submitting things the way that they were given to them in discovery request from the state. So in reality, Hippler's actually complaining about the way that the state organized all of their discovery materials, but the defense seems to be the one getting the blame. I like that they're reiterating the fact that everything was such a disgusting mess, and we've known that for a while. We heard Mowry actually take the stand and claim that he didn't put anything in chronological order, alphabetical order. He didn't verify to see if it actually belonged in that folder with that evidence. He just basically was in control of storing all of the evidence for this one specific thing, but not validating that it actually belonged there. So there's a massive amount of just unnecessary information in this entire case. And it's really ridiculous that the state isn't more clear-cut and precise on what they're handing over. It really does make it seem like they're just trying to overload it with a whole bunch of information because the truth is they can't tell the story that they want us to believe they can. This is an example of the discovery practices the state engages in, which violate Mr. Kohberger's right to due process and a fair trial. Mr. Kohberger grounds his objection in the United States Constitution, 5th, 6th, and 14th Amendment, and the Idaho Constitution, Article 1, Section 13. The state has not provided a specific record with a certificate and an affidavit. The state has promised certification in the future, but has failed to properly identify the record and how it falls within 8036 and/or 8. The Idaho State of Appeals has said Rule 8036, the business record exception to the hearsay rule, allows admission of a record or report if it was made and kept in the course of a regularly conducted business activity and if it was the regular practice of that business to make the report or record. Now, I'm not really quite sure what that means. In my brain, as a human being that does not practice law, that reads this, to me, it means that the camera recording has to be a normal thing for the business to do. That's what this sounds like to me. And to me, pretty much every business has a recording system. So if that's what this is about and that's what this is claiming, it feels like one of those useless arguments again. Because it's pretty normal, especially for a chain of gas stations and for like other chain businesses to have security cameras, but just in general for there to be security cameras like on a business seems pretty normal these days. The provided list is not easily identifiable as to which records the state is referring to. Many of the records require foundation because the state has not supplied information to guarantee completeness and authenticity of the record. Aside from issues of authenticity, the state provides no basis upon which any of these records are relevant and meet Idaho Rules of Evidence 401, 02, and 03. Before any of these records are admitted, they must first be relevant. Yeah, like I said, for there to be a 9, 12, and 59-second timestamp timestamp in the state's own evidence paperwork, and then there to be hours upon hours upon hours upon hours of footage that are supposed to just be for that one little timestamp. No, that's ridiculous. There's no reason for it to be so overbearingly large when it comes to the amount of data. I mean, we've pretty much known for a while now a lot of it was irrelevant. Only then does the determination of whether an exception to the hearsay rule even matters. In support of his objection, Mr. Kohberger describes the size and complexity of each item for which the state requests admission with a promised certificate as follows. Okay, now here we go. 1320 and 1330 Linda Lane surveillance footage for November 13th of 2022. Now it says provided on a hard drive April 5th of 22 on both lines, but it's obvious by the fact that all these other hard drives were handed over on April 5th of 23 that this is just a typo that they seem to have like carried over, because I'm pretty positive this exact same typo is in the States. You know what? I'm just going to go look. Yeah, look, see, this is a perfect example of the defense keeping with the way that the state is labeling things and organizing things, because there's no way that you have surveillance footage handed to you months and months and months and months and months before the crime even occurred. So they took the state's typo and just copied and pasted it into their own information to further prove the point that the state is a hot mess. Okay, now back to the defense document. These surveillance videos contained in the folder AV000147 are two videos from the same viewpoint. They are each a 1 hour time block. Counsel has located in Discovery video footage from the two cameras that are between 8 and 9 gigabytes of data. This data runs in numerous clips of varying length with an approximate total of 12 and a half hours. The state has not provided any specifics related to what it intends to rely on or use as evidence, nor a certificate that the videos was made and kept in the course of a regularly conducted business activity. And if it was the regular practice of that business to make the report or record, no certification for this footage establishing the criteria required exists. Now, this portion right here is going to be in almost all of them from what it looks like. So I'm definitely not going to be repeating that for every single one of these because there's so many. But this is interesting that it is two videos from the same viewpoint, so that it can't be the one that goes down to where you can see Taylor Avenue where the car with the sunroof is. It has to be the exact same viewpoint. It can't be that and the parking lot. So is there two on that parking lot and we just don't know about it? Because that verbiage right there makes it sort of confusing. Number 3 is the Clarkston, Washington Albertsons. This one's also in the PCA. It says this is a surveillance video recording that is about 3 gigabytes in size. The file contains multiple views that cover about a 2-hour time block. That's a long time. The state has not provided any specifics related to what it intends to rely on or use as evidence, nor a certificate that the videos was made. See, that's that exact same thing over again. So in the PCA and in the bigger piece of information we got that we're going to end up going over when it comes to the make and model of the vehicle, because there's video surveillance footage timestamps at a Costco, at the Albertsons, and all kinds of different places that match a lot of the stuff that they're talking about here. But because it's the make and model document, we're going to be going over it in a separate video. There's going to be a crap ton of like map stuff on there, so that one's going to take me a minute. But they're claiming that he went into the Albertsons and bought something. He was only in there for a handful of minutes. Now they're claiming that there was like gloves involved in his shopping situation, but that can be attested to by, autism and OCDs and all kinds of other things. So again, if the behavior can literally be explained away and they still can't put him in the vicinity of King Road at the time the murders happened, then it's just a behavior that people are pointing at that would otherwise be considered pretty normal. But why there's a 2-block time period, I don't know. They're supposed to just have him going into Albertsons and coming back out again within a handful of minutes. So I don't know why they need a 2-hour block. Now, this one about Amazon is interesting because it pretty much does clarify that the purchases that they're looking at are from a family account. That's not just Bryan being the one on the account buying things, clicking things, searching things. Okay. Number 4, Amazon financial and user records for Bryan Kohberger. There's 4 different files, as you can see by the different numbers. AV236 contains an Excel spreadsheet with information and categories for subscription information and order history for an Amazon account, Mr. Kohberger and his family members. It should have probably said share. I feel like there's a word missing, but it proves that it's one Amazon account and it's Bryan Kohberger and his family that all use the same account. I had heard somewhere, and some of you guys in the comments when I mentioned this in one of my other videos remember hearing this too, but I went back to the court stuff. I went back to some of the documents. I couldn't find where they actually said it was a household account. But I know that we all heard it. Well, some of us heard it because some of y'all down in the comments pretty much clarified that I'm just not making shit up. It was said somewhere. I just couldn't find it. AV 243 contains Mr. Kohberger's father's account, records, and purchase history. These records list purchases for the entire family. So this would be for Michael Kohberger. AV 398 contains subscription history, click activity, and sign-in history for the Amazon account for Mr. Kohberger and his family. Okay, so again, we're not seeing where he has one just by himself. AV 832 contains a police report from Michael Douglas. Michael Douglas is the federal agent that was one of the federal agents that was getting the search warrant information first, and then, a few weeks later would email it to the Moscow Police Department person that was in charge of doing the next steps. Mr. Kohberger objects specifically to AV 832 as it is a police report and the prosecution must have a witness to testify about the contents of a police report. He objects to the rest of the requested documents because the records are not a complete record. The court should consider Mr. Kohberger's motion to exclude all Amazon records and expert testimony in conjunction with the state's request. On March 12th of 2025, the state filed expert opinions related to Amazon records some 3 months after its expert disclosure deadline. This is also, and I believe Michael Douglas is the same person that's going to be the one doing this. This is also whenever we found out that instead of like an Amazon expert for real, they're going to be having this Michael Douglas guy be on the stand as a federal agent that he is, because he's a Fed, but in place of an actual Amazon expert to testify. They're going to put the Fed guy instead. So, okay. Now, the next one is the AT&T phone records for Mr. Kohberger, for Maddie, and for Xana. Mr. Kohberger notes that these records are one copy of several copies obtained during the course of the case. This folder also contained records relating to someone else. Who? You can't just say someone else and then not tell us who. The state has not provided any specifics related to what it intends to rely on or use as evidence, nor a certificate that the records were, and that whole same thing again. Mr. Kohberger seeks exclusion of these records based on the state's incomplete expert disclosures. This should not be an allowed method of circumventing those failures. Now, there's really nothing nefarious at all about it having Maddie, Xana's name, and Bryan's name along with this, because all this means is that they share the same cell phone network. It doesn't have any further meaning other than that. But I'd love to know who that freaking somebody else is. Number 6, Bagel Shop video surveillance video on November 13th of 2022. This surveillance video is over 7.5 gigabytes in size. No information has been submitted explaining how this video is certified or what portions the state tends to use. And that's it. There's no other information about the timing or anything like that at all. That's it. Okay. Bank of America records for Bethany and Xana. The two folders contain different sets of information. 133 contains Bank of America records for Bethany and Xana. There is an additional record listed that appears to be on another person. Who's another person? So this is another person number 2. Additionally, sections of the record are redacted, blocking out information. Now remember, I don't remember off the top of my head which ones they were, so for a refresher, I would suggest just going to my previous video because I'm just going to go off memory right now. There are several of these warrants that were given to us to view as the public that have like 7 people's names on them. And we sort of all just assumed that Dylan and Bethany were just magically, 2 of them. But there was this other person, this like other name. And it's on quite a few. So this other person being listed now twice, on top of the fact that we know that there's all kinds of unknown DNA, like not only at the crime scene itself, but now apparently in the fingernail clippings of Maddie, there's a male who we've never heard of before that people are digging up information on now. And this information about this other person is being handed over to the defense, and they're not supposed to ask questions as to why it's there in the first place. I really wish they would tell us who this person is. It goes on to say that AV 254 contains Bank of America records for Bethany and Xana. These records are different than those from AV 133. Why? They're both Bank of America. They're both for Bethany. They're both for Xana. That's interesting. Okay. Number 8, banner banking records for Ethan. The state has not provided any specifics related to what it intends to rely on or use as evidence, nor a certificate that the records was made. The exact same thing, basically. It's just there with no information. Then they go on to say that AV 255 contains Banner Bank records for both Ethan and his mom. Is that why Stacy Chapin and the Chapins are going to all of a sudden go to trial because now her banking records are being looked at for some reason? Because that's wild. The state has not provided any specifics. So that's it. Just that they're turning in banking records for Ethan and his mother. Okay. Number 9, Cafe Arista video surveillance from November 13th of 22. This disclosure contains still photos as well as multiple files of recordings. The total amount of video footage available is around 2 hours. And again, nothing else has been disclosed, and there's no further information on that one. That's interesting. Corner Club video surveillance video for November 12th through the 13th of 2022, and they have AV076 and AV0143. These two files may be duplicate disclosures. The video surveillance is from 14 different cameras with multiple hours of video footage. Damn, Corner Club has 14 cameras? Woo! There is no disclosure containing what sections of this discovery intends to use at trial or how this record is a regularly collected and maintained record for this business. I mean, it's a bar. Let's be so for real. It's regular for them to have cameras. Number 11, Corner Club financial transaction receipts of sale for November 13th of 2022. This record is 138 pages of receipts from the Corner Club bar. There is no disclosure regarding what pages the state intends to admit as evidence and how these records are regularly collected and maintained. Okay, well, you know damn well that bars keep receipts. See, adding this kind of crap like this, how these records are regularly collected and maintained document of this business, it's a bar. Adding stuff this stupid to something like duh and common sense makes y'all look dumb too, okay? Like, let's just not be so stupid. Number 12 is the Costco in Clarkston, Washington. Surveillance video for November 13th of 22. This surveillance is from up to 10 cameras and runs for approximately 1 hour. The state provides no disclosures for what segments of these videos it intends to use or how they comply with, and it's cut off because, they didn't finish their sentence. Number 13, DeSales student records regarding Bryan Kohberger. This disclosure is thousands of pages of documents that are not organized in any fashion. This disclosure involves information related to Mr. Kohberger's calendar, coursework drafts, final drafts, testing, emails, and syllabi for classes while he was a student at DeSales. Well, he's not at the time that all this was going on, so it's kind of redundant. The state has not specified what out of this extensive and disorganized information it intends to use, how records contained in Mr. Kohberger's personal school Google account are a business record kept in the ordinary course by DeSales, or how these privacy-protected education records are admissible in court. Dick's Sporting Goods record of sale for Bryan Kohberger. The disclosure contains a copy of a sales record from June of 2022. So either right before or right after he moved here? The state has not specified what records it intends to admit as evidence, how it was made and kept in the course of a regularly, the same damn thing. Again, it's a business, it's a sporting goods store, it's going to keep all of those things. Discover financial records for Kaylee. This record contains a certification for 33 pages of records. The state has supplied 17 pages, including compliance forms and emails. This record is incomplete. So there was a whole bunch of bullshit information already handed over that's completely useless. It's not being specific. It's not being detailed down. It's basically all redundant waste of space. Then they are also hiding information. They're showing that there's 33 pages in the records, but they're only handing over 17. No, you got to hand over all of it. Quit playing around. DoorDash records for Xana and Ethan. This is what we want right here. AV265 contains Ethan's DoorDash records, but does not contain records for Xana. I'm sorry? Okay, let's just read. The 4523 disclosure is a DoorDash search warrant return. We saw the search warrant before. It's on the public records that we can view ourselves. The warrant returns contains photographs, a list of deliveries to 1122 King Road and span as far back as 2019, and a spreadsheet of communication between the person ordering the food and the DoorDasher. That's interesting. The state has not specified which of these records it intends to use at trial, how they were made, blah, blah, blah. Okay, wow. So we're being told in the PCA that Xana is the one that received a DoorDash. But only Ethan's DoorDash records are in here and not Xana's. Now, the state's paper definitely does say that it's both of theirs. Right here, DoorDash records for Xana and Ethan. This is what's coming from the state. So the state is not being honest about what they're submitting. And they're going back as far as 2019. That would have been like right whenever Ethan would have gotten there or before Ethan would have even gotten there. That's insane. Number 17 is those early warning records. We did an entire video live about this because this was something that I didn't know existed. I know all about the credit bureaus, Experian, TransUnion, Equifax, the way that all those things work. I wasn't aware that the banking system, Wells Fargo, JP Chase Morgan, all the big dogs have their own separate sort of credit system that they use when it comes to your bank accounts. They can go in and see your actual transaction history. Like if you just went and bought gas down at the gas station and then went and bought bread at Walmart, they can see those types of specifics when it comes to your transaction history. So it's interesting that for the majority, these early warning reports are created whenever they believe that you're doing something fraudulent. Now, it's interesting that Mr. Kohberger is claiming that he doesn't know what in the world they're even submitting something like this for, because again, this is a bank account reporting type system. And it's interesting that he's claiming that because that's actually a pretty common reaction when it comes to these early warning records. Whenever we went over it on that live, I showed you guys a story of a woman who was not able to get a bank account literally at all, no matter where she went. She ended up getting a lawyer and trying to find out what was going on because she wasn't ever getting anything that made sense when it comes to a reason. She was just getting told there was a bunch of negative stuff and whatever on her credit, but whenever she'd look at her actual credit report, like go to Credit Karma, look up your credit, there was nothing about anything bad on there. So when she got a lawyer, went to court, she found out that this separate banking system's little credit reporting situation was trying to say that she actually committed check fraud. But whenever she asked them to submit the proof that she actually did this, there was none. So they can lie and have false information on your early warning record when it comes to the way that you bank, and they can actually technically decline access to you even getting that report. It's not like your regular credit one where you can go and get it for free every year and it's just an automated thing. They can actually tell you no about getting your own information. So while it's extremely interesting that it's in there to begin with, it's also pretty interesting that they're claiming straight up that he doesn't even understand why they're even there to begin with. Elon financial records for Kaylee. The records contained in this folder relate to a P1 FCU account for Kaylee's relative. The state has not specified which of these records it intends to use. Okay, what's P1 FCU? This means credit union. Is this that one that starts with a P that has a police department in Moscow? Yeah, I was right. Look at that. It's the potlatch one. So it's not for Kaylee. It's for one of her relatives? So they're submitting financial record information for one of Kaylee's relatives. Dang. I guess maybe that explains a little bit of the Goncalves' behavior. Let's be so for real. The bigger question is, who is it? Okay, let's continue. Number 19, ENS Services. This is a business in Pullman, Washington. Surveillance video from November 13th. This disclosure contains 2 dates of surveillance, each with 125 entries, and again, just says the state has not provided any specifics. Number 20, Farmers Insurance surveillance video on November 13th. This disclosure contains 2 files. One has 641 separate videos. Holy shit. And the other has 175. Again, no specifics. What? They really are just packing it in there, aren't they? Number 21, Floyd's Cannabis Co. surveillance video, November 13th, 2022. Now remember, Ann Taylor has already stood up in court and stated that they can prove that the freaking car on Floyd's cannabis surveillance is not Bryan's. She has been adamant about that for a long time now. Their surveillance in this disclosure comes from 2 separate cameras and has multiple views. And again, the state's not being specific. Bryan's crypto account, the foreststackscrypto.com financial records for Bryan Kohberger. This disclosure contains records that show purchase history and include the time but not the date, account activity, and automated chats relating to account updates. So automated information, not him actually talking to a person, but to a bot or any automated messages about any sort of updates to the accounts. And again, the state's not providing any specifics whatsoever when it comes to what they're actually trying to prove. On March 13th of 2025 was for the first time that the state even disclosed that its expert Michael Douglas intends to rely on this record for his summary. No opinion regarding these records has been disclosed. What is his freaking crypto gonna prove? I mean, are they gonna try to say that he's some sort of like hitman and he was paid via crypto? Is that what they're gonna try to say? I mean, seriously, at this point, nothing's going to shock me. Grub truck video surveillance video for November 13th of 22. This disclosure contains 4.5 hours of video. The state has not provided any specifics. And yes, they should know already this was definitely a regular practice at this business. This is just being here all the time. I'm sorry, but it's just annoying me. When it comes to businesses, you know damn well that this is a normal situation. Why are we playing right now? Harbor Freight business and surveillance records. This disclosure contains surveillance video, receipts, and a product manual. Most of the purchase receipts belong to people other than Mr. Kohberger. So they submitted a whole bunch of receipts that aren't even Bryan's. The state has not provided any specifics related to what it intends to rely on or use as evidence, nor a certificate, all the regular things. What's the product manual for? I mean, most people don't need to learn how to use a vacuum. It's pretty self-explanatory, but I don't know. Idaho Central Credit Union, records for Maddie. The state has not provided any specifics. And that's it. Indian Mountain Lake surveillance. This is Bryan Kohberger's parents' gated community. This disclosure does not contain video surveillance. It does contain records of entry in a visitor's log. The first time frame exceeds the date Mr. Kohberger was arrested. The state has not provided any specifics. Visitor's log is interesting. I wonder if Bryan would have to sign a visitor's log since he doesn't technically live there anymore. Then again, I honestly do wonder if he had some hometown chick that he just kind of does stuff with whenever he's home come and visit him, because we got information about the DNA. We found out that they pulled several, more than one at least, DNAs from the trash can at the Pennsylvania home, and the one that was some sort of like a match to Bryan was mixed with female DNA, and they're not being specific at all about what it is. So I'm just wondering if it's like a rubber or something like that, and some chick came to see him, and that's why you've got this mixture of things happening here. So maybe this exact same person's name is also on this visitor's log. But then again, the whole like video surveillance thing not ever being a situation at all when it comes to that arrest and them saying that he was jogging all the time and doing all these other crazy things. They did say they didn't even put like surveillance video on the property, I think, until like Christmas Day, something like that. Number 27 is another one that was kind of like, why do we need this? What are they going to try to prove with this? Joann's Fabrics. This disclosure contains purchase information and a receipt. And again, no further specifics. Latesville County Sheriff's Office Deputy Darren Duke body cam from the August 21st Moscow traffic stop that I've tried to FOIA and have been told that it's under seal. This disclosure cannot be presented by the state of Idaho pursuant to IRE. This is not a business record. That's because it's under seal. So with it being under seal, they can't apparently put any specifics in this information because this is being presented to the public. Is that what this is trying to say? Because the only thing that the state's told us about why that traffic stop is even being submitted is for identification purposes, for Bryan Kohberger himself, for the make and model of the car, for the phone number that they've searched, and for the address in question. That's what the state is claiming they have submitted it for. And based on the rules that we went over whenever they submitted it under a very specific rule, they have to be clear in their intentions for why it's being submitted. And they're not claiming for pre-planning, for organizing, or anything like that. It's literally for identification only. So I'm really wondering what they're really going to try to prove with that when they've sort of like failed to do so this entire time. Now we have the Marshall's financial records for Bryan Kohberger. When it comes to AV 269, it says this disclosure contains Marshall receipts, just a bunch of random ones, I guess. 0350 contains a variety of documents that include police reports, photos, an interview, handwritten notes, consent forms, a victimology questionnaire, receipts, copies of messages, and other documents, most of which are not related to Mr. Kohberger. The state has not supplied a certification of any record within this file. I don't understand. A police report? photos, an interview, handwritten notes, a consent form, a victimology questionnaire, actually multiple victimology questionnaires, multiple receipts, and copies of messages and other documents, most of which are not related to Mr. Kohberger. But what is related to Mr. Kohberger? When it comes to police reports, photos, interviews, handwritten notes, consent forms, victimology questionnaires, receipts, copies of messages, and other documents, what parts are related to him? This is weird. This would tell me that there is another police report out there somewhere. Is Marshall's where Kaylee might have been thinking that some stalker was following her or something like that? I don't remember it being Marshall's. This is a bit strange. Okay. AV861 contains a single-page document listing purchases from multiple businesses. This file contains nothing to identify what it is or who it's about. No certification accompanies this document stating who generated this document or who it relates to. And again, the state has not provided any specifics, meaning that this single-page document listing purchases from multiple businesses doesn't have the name or what was bought or the reasoning why it's there. It's just a random list. This is really just kind of stupid. Okay. National Weather Service record for November 12th and November 13th. State has not provided certification in compliance with case law and rule. Numerica bank records for Kaylee. And it looks like there's 3 different records on this hard drive. The hard drive contains account information produced pursuant to a search warrant. AV258 contains a sheet with sign-in information. The AV828 contains information produced pursuant to a search warrant, and AV849 contains multiple files of unrelated records, as well as a duplicate of the 828 information. Only one file has a purported certification, and again, no specifics. A sign-in sheet. You don't normally have to sign in to just go do regular banking stuff. Does that mean that there was some sort of like safety deposit box looked at? Because normally, at least in the movies, okay, I'm going to be really stupid here and say in the movies, because I don't have a safety deposit box, nor do I know anyone that actually has one, okay? But in the movies, there's like a special sign in process that takes place whenever you want to go in and look at your safety deposit box. So I don't know if Numerica has that or what that's about, but I find sign-in information a little bit odd. I don't know. Now, I guess this could be like password information to log into her account online, but the way that it's worded, for some reason, initially my reaction was, is this a sign-in sheet like on a clipboard with a pin attached to a little, on a string? That's what it sort of like resembled to me in my head. But again, it could be username and password. I don't know. Okay, PayPal Venmo financial records, 3 separate files. AV0215. This disclosure contains the Venmo record for Mr. Kohberger, and this record does not have any sort of compliance with case law or statute. Then it says that the AV0260 is records from Synchrony for Mr. Kohberger's PayPal. That's the bank that controls PayPal. The state has included a purported certification of these records is included. They probably should have checked that sentence. Okay. AV0793. This disclosure contains records from PayPal. These records are different from those contained in this one. So it's a different PayPal? Is it 2 different PayPal accounts? State has not supplied certification. Okay. PNC bank records for Mr. Kohberger. This record contains Mr. Kohberger's account information with transactions from June of 2022. So just the fact that this is like transaction records from before he even moved apparently is interesting to me. Like, I don't know what in the world they're trying to prove with that. PIN teledata records, and there's 2 different files. AV0241 contains PIN teledata account information for MK and MAK. Well, MK, considering that this is the Pennsylvania internet, I believe it is, for his parents' house, would be Michael Kohberger. I guess this would be his mom. This would be Bryan's mom. AV0866 contains copies of the same information. The state has not provided any specifics, so it's basically just duplicate info. Okay. Pennsylvania State Employees Credit Union for Mr. Kohberger. Okay, so it looks like they're putting his parents' banking information in here too. For freaking what? AV0226 does contain PCECU records for Mr. Kohberger. A purported certification is included. However, it lists disclosures of 23 pages, and the state provided 26 pages and an Excel spreadsheet. So it's supposed to have 23 pages and even more information was submitted instead of less like the last time. Why is nothing normal? This is so stupid. AV0242 contains PSECU records for Michael Kohberger, and again, I'm going to assume this is Bryan Kohberger's mom. A0259 contains different or additional PSECU records for Mr. Kohberger. There is no certification for these records. Okay. Now, again, why we need this, I don't understand. Petco financial records for Kaylee. AV0867 contains Petco records from purchases made with cards associated with Kaylee and or her rewards card. Made with cards associated with? That almost makes it sound like it was like her card, but not her that did it. That's weird. Okay. Rite Aid financial records. AV0871 contains an email stating they do not have any video footage and no transactions for Bethany. The disclosure consists of 3 pages of records are provided. What? The disclosure consists of 3 pages. 3 pages of records are provided. So they basically went to start this sentence twice and didn't take out which one they didn't choose. This is the second time I've seen this. The disclosure consists of 3 pages, but nothing to identify who they relate to. The state provides no certification. So there's 3 pages, nothing to show who it's for, but an email says there's nothing there for Bethany. So then why do we need it? Why is it even there? If you can't find anything for anybody, what's the point of it even being there? Okay, Ross Financial Records. AV0861 is a single-page disclosure that lists purchases not from Ross stores and has no identifying information. Is that the same one from Marshall's? Where's the Marshall's one? Yes, it is. It's the exact same one. AV000861, single-page document listing purchases for multiple businesses. So when it comes to the Ross information, they put the exact same document that doesn't actually have anything for Ross in it. Let's go back. This is the states. So yeah, look right here. Marshall's financial records for Bryan Kohberger. All these things, but it includes information that mostly doesn't have anything to do with him. That mostly is annoying as shit, and I want to know more. Ross financial records. But there's no financial records. It's a paper that just shows a list of purchases, and there's no identifying information. And that was submitted without there being anything about Ross on it whatsoever. The state is submitting it. Wow, this is disgusting. If Judge Hippler doesn't do something about this, I mean, this is so stupid. Okay, we're getting to the one that I talked about in the video about the 9 o'clock hour. Sunset Mart at 1311 South Main Street in Moscow, Idaho. Surveillance video for November 13th of 22. This disclosure contains surveillance video from several cameras. There are 11 folders containing subfolders of footage. The recordings provide hours and hours of surveillance footage. The state has not provided any specifics related to what it intends to rely on or use. Again, the same verbiage as before. And this is pretty much the exact same thing when it comes to the Sunset Mart in Pullman, Washington. This disclosure contains surveillance video from several cameras. There are 3 folders containing subfolders that contain recordings. The recordings provide hours and hours of surveillance footage. And if there's very specific timestamps that the state's trying to claim they can use to prove their point, they should only be admitting that information, not hours and hours and hours of unnecessary things that now the defense has to swim through. That's bullshit. Number 42 for Target financial records. There's 4 different files here. AV0253. This disclosure is 51 pages of receipts from Target. For frickin' why? Why do we need 51 Target receipts? AV0263. This disclosure contains an email trail regarding a gift card issued in 2014. Are we for real? Are we for real? AV0861 is that same stupid disclosure that is a single list with a whole bunch of different stores on it, but again, does not have a Ross purchase when it's attached to Ross financial records for Bryan Kohberger, according to the state. AV086, this disclosure contains a letter to Agent Douglas stating they are providing the records for Dylan and Bethany from Target. Why was that needed? Why is that needed? The disclosure provides a certification stating 5 pages of documents are provided. The state has disclosed 6 pages of documents. So again, additional information. The state has not provided any specifics. More info, less info, no specifics, no actual information, just a bunch of boo-boo. TikTok user records for Xana, because remember, they're trying to tell us that she was active on TikTok at 4/12. This record contains user history, including use, messaging, and video. And then it says the state has not provided any specifics. That's beautiful. TJ Maxx financial records for Dylan. Why do we need to know this? This disclosure contains email communication relating to the disclosure and a single record of a purchase by Dylan on October the 18th of 2022. And again, no specifics made whatsoever. Simply because this item is a single purchase does not explain how it is a self-authenticated business record relevant to this case. Again, why do we need to know what Dylan purchased at TJ Maxx? And what is so special about this 10/18/22? And if Bryan Kohberger is the guy, then why do we need to know what the survivors are buying at TJ Maxx and at Target, and what Kaylee, one of the actual victims, is buying for her dog at the pet store? I am not understanding the reasoning for any of this stuff. T-Mobile phone records for Kaylee and Dylan. AV0345. This disclosure contains call detail and subscriber records for Kaylee and Dylan from 6/23 of 22 to 8/1 of 22. Why? Why? This is after Bryan Kohberger got his new phone. This is in between like the time frame of both Bryan Kohberger and Kaylee making moves. Like this is around the time frame that Bryan Kohberger was moving from Pennsylvania into Washington, and also around the exact same time, coincidentally, that Kaylee moved out of some apartment that she was staying at somewhere into the King Road house. Before, really soon after that, she would leave and start staying over at her parents' house while still having all of her furniture and stuff at King Road. But the reason why they need call detail records for these two girls in this time frame, that's weird to me. That's super strange to me. That's wild. Okay, 46. Umpqua bank records for Dylan. Again, why are we needing all these bank records for people that are not apparently guilty here? Like, I'm just not really quite understanding this. The AV0261 file. This disclosure contains Dylan's banking records. This disclosure also contains records produced from another financial institution for Maddie. So they're so disorganized that they have other banking information labeled as other banking information and other people's information inputted with other people's information. They're just a disgusting mess. Additionally, this disclosure contains a copy of a grand jury subpoena and a letter of instruction. There's a first footnote. And they have it as an exhibit listed objection to state's motion for the federal grand jury subpoena. And again, the state has not provided any specifics. The Under Armour transaction records for Bryan Kohberger. This disclosure contains a letter responding to the record request and a record of a single purchase Mr. Kohberger made in Pennsylvania, 6/24 of 22. So before he moved. And again, there's no specifics for why. So what, he bought like a black shirt from a sports store to probably help him not sweat while he's jogging, because he jogs a lot. And we know that because people have come out and said that they jog with him too. So again, we have a purchase from before he moved, and then a purchase Dylan made a month before the crime. This is all just very strange. U.S. Chef Store, Clarkston, Washington, video surveillance. This disclosure contains a video lasting approximately 25 minutes. The state has not provided any specifics. The state has not disclosed certification for this video. Ulta financial records. Again, I'm not really quite understanding why we need makeup records, but okay. AV0869. This disclosure contains purchase records for Kaylee, Maddie, and a person identified only as a member ID number. Like an Ulta member ID, so maybe like one of their friends that goes with them, I guess. This disclosure contains a letter from the business, and the same verbiage as always. The state has not provided any specifics, blah, blah, blah. Verizon phone records for Ethan, Bethany, and JD, which we can only assume is Jack Ducour. This disclosure contains phone downloads for each of the named persons. These records are captured by more than one tool for download. Each record contains a huge amount of data. AV0303, this disclosure contains records for Ethan and Bethany. There are no records for JD in this disclosure. So the state's claiming that there's records for Jack Ducour, but there's not actually any submitted. The same thing when it comes to Xana's DoorDash records. They're claiming that they're there, but in reality, it's only Ethan's. And again, the state's not providing any specifics. Walmart surveillance and financial records for Bryan Kohberger. AV0252, this disclosure contains purchase history for Mr. Kohberger. I don't feel like my Walmart purchase history would even fit in a terabyte. Because, like, that's a daily store for me. Like, I'm definitely a Walmart person, okay? AV0384. This disclosure is one of several containing surveillance videos from Walmart. In this particular folder, there are multiple cameras and surveillance videos. These would not open and were provided in a converted format, so they're not even able to be viewed. Not every video from this folder was provided in the converted format, so there are some they can see, okay? And once again, the state has not provided any specifics, and it says the state has not provided certifications for any of their surveillance footage. Okay. Washington Department of Motor Vehicles from November 18th of 22. This is whenever Bryan Kohberger switched his plate from Pennsylvania over to Washington. And people make a big deal about this, but I don't, because regardless, it's trackable, it's traceable. So even if he's the guy that did this and he switched his plates to like throw shit off, with what he's claiming his specialty is, he should know that this is completely traceable and this would be pointless. I'm just saying. AV0140, this disclosure contains surveillance footage, probably just of him going in and doing whatever he did whenever he was there to change his plates. And AV0830, disclosure contains surveillance footage and is noted as converted. Both disclosures have several videos. These videos contain sound, but no certification was provided. Okay. Washington Department of Motor Vehicles registration documents for Mr. Kohberger. This disclosure contains registration and title documents. Pretty straightforward. Washington Trust Bank records for Mr. Kohberger. AV0227. This disclosure contains Washington Trust Bank records for Mr. Kohberger. There is an Excel spreadsheet of transactions and PDG documents of images of Mr. Kohberger in his car at the ATM on the morning of 11/13 of 22. I wonder what time. Because he went to Clarkston, Washington. Like, he took a selfie at 10:31, and then at 12:34, I think is the time on the other document when it comes to the make and model surveillance video lists, that they have him at the Costco. So there's like 2 hours in between him taking that selfie and being seen at the Costco on camera. That's not accounted for. But again, to me, he looks like he's getting ready for church, okay? Like, if we didn't have all this insanity looming over this situation and over Bryan Kohberger, you would literally look at that selfie, look at the time, and really think, dude's on his way to church in a button-down shirt. Like, so for real. And again, it says that the state has not provided any specifics. Wells Fargo bank records for Maddie. There's 3 files here. AV0155. This disclosure contains Wells Fargo records for Maddie. These records were obtained pursuant to a search warrant. AV0261. This disclosure contains Umpqua records for Dylan and Wells Fargo records for Maddie. So they have something from a whole different bank attached to the Wells Fargo information. And this record also contains a grand jury packet and a letter. What does that mean? A packet for what? Like a grand jury juror packet thingy for like the person that has to be on the jury? This thing is such a disorganized, disgusting disaster. My OCD is tripping from afar. These records are not the same as the records contained in AV0155. AV0262 is a disclosure that contains Wells Fargo records for Maddie and are the exact same records from 0155 and 0261. So duplicate records, wasted time. And then they have the same exact file name, but they have it listed as A, which I guess technically the other one's A, and this one would technically, I guess, be B. This disclosure provides the same record again, but with another document that had not been provided with any other related disclosure. And that's all we got from that. So something different, but we don't know what. Okay. Number 57, Winco financial records for Mr. Kohberger. This is that stupid file that has a list of random purchases in random stores that, again, was attached for the Ross records, but Ross isn't even one of the stores. This is a single-page document referenced in numbers 39 and 42. The disclosure does not contain Mr. Kohberger's financial records relating to Winco. So it says Winco financial records for Kohberger, but it actually doesn't have anything about Bryan and anything from Winco in this thing whatsoever. This was like the one thing that I was like, oh, look at that. They did Winco for both him and for all of the girls. I wonder if that might actually mean something. And it turns out that as usual, as the theme, that it doesn't. It doesn't literally at all. Number 58, Winco financial records and surveillance for Bethany, Dylan, Kaylee, Maddie, and Xana. AV0860. This disclosure contains transactions for those listed above. The purported certification reads Winco food receipts only. So they're grocery shopping? Y'all submitted receipts for their freaking grocery shopping? This disclosure contains surveillance video from several cameras at Winco, and then the same old thing, no specifics. Okay. Washington State University, WSU video surveillance for November 13th of 22, the hard drive. This disclosure contains video surveillance from a variety of cameras and multiple separate videos of surveillance footage at WSU. The state has not provided any specifics. Well, we've got a bunch of timestamps, so you'd think that they would be pretty freaking specific here. WSU parking records, several files. AV0375. This disclosure is record from WSU containing a vast amount of information about vehicles, parking, and campus-related information. So basically like stuff you'd hand over to a student. Nothing important. AV0394. This disclosure contains content appearing to duplicate the above information. Again, something you'd hand to like a student so they would know what to do with their car and how to park it. AV0430. This disclosure contains a huge amount of data covering U of I and WSU parking permits, parking tickets, searches for vehicles through different entities, vehicle spreadsheets, specific files seeking a 2011 to a 2013 Elantra, and a 2019 to 2022 Nissan Sentra. I did a video a while back about an article that came out saying that they were originally looking for a Nissan Sentra, and I did this little thing right here that shows the differences in the cars and the years that they were apparently looking for. Now, we never had anything official say that, but now we're seeing this Nissan Sentra mentioned in the documents, and I don't believe that this is the first time either. There are two WSU-related folders. One contains some of the same information in AV0375 and AV0394, but also contains additional information. The second WSU-related file contains spreadsheets for various vehicles queried through traffic tickets. And then we have the exact same verbiage all over again. Okay, now we're getting to the end of the document. The state is seeking broad authority to provide in the future a certification for records listed above. So they were turned in late and they still don't even have all the information they need, as we've seen. These records are extensive. They contain several terabytes of video and thousands of pages of what seems to be completely freaking irrelevant bullshit. There's really no other way to put it. The state has obtained these records in a variety of ways. Some came through police work doing video canvassing, others came with search warrant service, and many came through federal grand jury subpoena. Mr. Kohberger provides as and exhibit a copy of the federal grand jury subpoena he was provided inadvertently. He sought all grand jury subpoenas through discovery and motion to compel. He was not provided copies other than this inadvertently produced copy. So the one that just like accidentally got put in there, the little packet. Wow. Of interest and in support of his objection to the state's motion is that records were dual produced by search warrant and by subpoena. The copy of records is not identical in every production. This exhibit depicts a letter from FBI agent Douglas directing the keeper of business records to contact him prior to fulfilling the subpoena. Well, that's interesting. In the packet, in the exhibit, there is an affidavit of compliance which specifies what documents are responsive to the subpoena and specify what is supplied. As has been pointed out within the list discovery items above, when the affidavit has been produced in relation to the FBI grand jury subpoena, there is usually a discrepancy. Mr. Kohberger urges the court to first require the state to explain how each of these records are relevant because the mass production without specificity makes it impossible for Mr. Kohberger to effectively confront this evidence. The court must require verification of the records and videos produced along with any certification. Mr. Kohberger's objection to the state's broad request is summed up with reliance on his rights and protections under the United States Constitution and the State of Idaho Constitution. Mr. Kohberger has protections of a fair trial, effective assistance of counsel, and confronting evidence produced against him. Idaho rules of evidence govern evidence admissibility in trial. Mr. Kohberger objects to the state's request that is a large sweep with a free pass for admissibility. They have got to freaking clean this shit up. Jesus. The state's request is premature, excessively broad, and must be denied until the request can be disclosed specifically and properly litigated. Meaning, don't allow any of this crap into trial until you've done to them what you're doing to us. Make them clean it up. Make them specify and be specific about what's actually trying to be shown here. Because as we can see, this information is not pointing to anybody. There is really nothing here that is questionable whatsoever except the information that came out of whatever the frick is happening with marshals. And I'm going to be very honest about that, just like I'm honest about all the other things that I question in this case. The portion right here claiming that there are police reports, photos, interviews, handwritten notes, consent forms, victimology questionnaires, receipts, copies of messages, and other documents, most of which are not related to Kohberger, is interesting because what documents and what portions of this stuff does belong to him? And I can't even say how could they possibly get something mixed up into this case that has something to do with this case, but we've already seen that there's information for other people that they don't even know who it's about. The defense has no clue who these other people are. That's been stated at least twice. We have banking information being put with the incorrect bank. We have financial transactions that actually don't exist whatsoever. We have nothing. This entire list of stuff that the state has produced, most of it isn't even accurate to what they're describing. Again, we have information when it's supposed to be for Kaylee Goncalves, but it's actually for one of her family members. We have the information supposed to be coming in for Ethan and Xana's DoorDash, but in reality, it's just Ethan's information when we're being told by, everyone involved in this case for the entirety of this case that at 4 a.m., Xana is the one who received a DoorDash. So where's that information? Where's the proof that that actually happened? Well, that literally just felt like a whole lot of nothing. The state turned in a bunch of stuff that is irrelevant, has actually not been described correctly for what's being submitted, is completely disorganized. It's just gross. How there was no actual care, there was no detail, there was no give a shit with any of this information, with any of this evidence. The parents should be pissed that the prosecuting agency doesn't care enough to sit down and even organize the files, to get things specific, to make sure that there's no mistakes. They're just like haphazardly throwing shit out there and not even caring if it's actually relevant or not. How is this considered normal for how something so severe as a quadruple homicide should be being handled? How the investigation should be being conducted? This is ridiculous. And again, even for those of you out there that for some reason really do believe that Bryan Kohberger is the guy and there's nothing wrong here, how can y'all sit here and go through this list of completely irrelevant and unimportant and just waste of time information and not step back a minute and ask more questions? If you're looking at any of the documents that we're getting, especially over the past, I'd say 2.5-ish months or so, and still not seeing that there's a problem here, then I honestly don't know what to tell you. But for those of you out there that have a brain, my people that actually have a brain out there that see that something is going on, what are you guys thinking about these stupid records? What are they actually trying to prove with this? There's nothing even in here. This is so stupid. How did we even get to where we are right now? I just honestly don't understand how we've gotten this far on so little. But again, I want to know how you guys are feeling about all of this down in the comments. If you like the way that I present this information and give my opinion, please don't forget to leave a like on the way out. Subscribe to the channel if you are not subscribed already. And please don't forget to make sure that that notification bell is set to all so you don't miss any of my rants, reviews, reactions, updates, or deep dives. See y'all.